You know, my wife said to me the other day, she goes, 25 years, it's about time you got a job. So she packed me a little Spider-Man lunchbox, patted me on the head, and said, go to your office. Good, just. So guys, what we're doing today, instead of me up here speaking for 30 minutes, I brought out a panel of incredible former broker owners that moved their brokerage over. Guys, what I want you to understand right now, where the market's shifting. And when the market shifts, I know most of you guys are agents and you view it from an agent standpoint, but let me tell you right now, from a brokerage standpoint, there are a lot of companies that were already operating on a fine line. When a market shifts, they get crushed. And when they get crushed, they need help. And guess who the saviors are? We are. That's how you have to look at it. So I'm excited. I'm going to go through, let's see here if we get this clicker working. I don't know how the clicker works, but we'll figure it out. Who knows? Here we go. Let's start it off. So we got Kathy Helbig-Strick. Kathy ran a KW Market Center from 2008 to 2016, 240 agents. 2016, she opened up Experience Realty Partners. It was a boutique brokerage of 35 agents, 106 million in production, 350 units. She moved over in 2020. Let's give it up for Kathy there. And we got Frank here at the end. He owned Abbey Real Estate, 4 offices in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and Tyler. 472 agents, guys, 2,400 transactions a year. They were the fastest growing independent brokerage 4 years in a row. And welcome him to the panel. We all know this lovely lady, Veronica Figueroa. Owner of a RE/MAX franchise, 2 offices right here in Orlando, 32 agents, 200 million in production, moved over in 2019, now has a rev share group of 2230 agents. Very impressive, Veronica. Then my buddy right here, Brian Allen, he owned 580 Realty for 2.5 years, 2 offices, southeastern Oklahoma, 32 agents, 468 transactions, 96 millions, just joined this year. Welcome, Brian. Last but not least, one of my good friends, Trish Turner. Trish owned Trish Turner Properties in Caddy, Texas. 50 agents, 300 transactions, moved over October of 2018. That's our panel for today, guys. Let me tell you who I am. If you don't know me and my beautiful wife, we owned Revelation Real Estate since 2005. We were the #1 single office brokerage in the entire country. We had 906 agents doing 5,500 transactions a year, 2 billion in production. That was all out of 1 office, guys. Closed it down February of 2020. Now my rev share group is over 7,300 agents. So what I'm gonna do, guys, right now, here's what I'm gonna do. I want you guys to know the insight of what owner brokers think. I got some key questions. We're gonna make it quick because it's a short session, so they'll all get a couple of questions. They will answer, listen to what they have to say, because that's what you're gonna need to go after brokerages. Let's start off. Question number 1, I'm gonna go with Kathy here. Kathy, why did you open up your company? And if you were a franchise, why did you choose that particular one?
Sure. So I have 2 answers to that question. I was a KW franchise for 10 years. I chose going into a franchise because at the time I was looking at what else could I do besides selling houses? I wanted to kind of have a future plan of just not shopping houses the rest of my life, and I thought that was a good opportunity. One thing I will tell you though, and this is a good thing when you're talking with KW agents, what I had no idea is that I was handcuffing myself in an ownership position in a franchise. So I was held hostage for 5 years trying to get out of that. So that might be something to think about when you're talking to people that are considering going into a franchise. So after that 10-year run, I did finally was able to free myself, and at that point, funny, I was talking to Jason Gessie back then, and it was between going independent or going eXp. I went independent. But here I am today, a year ago last week I came over. But I went independent just to kind of free myself of all that and figure out what my next direction was. But I always loved the eXp model. I was so close to pulling the trigger. I think it had 4,400 agents at the time when I was talking to Jason. And had I not just come out of what I'd come out of, I would have made that decision and be sitting here with 2,000 or 3,000 people in my downline right now. So
Awesome. Veronica, we're going to give you that same question. We know you are a franchise. Why did you open up your own company?
Prior to opening up a RE/MAX franchise, I was a boutique independent broker. I never really wanted to be a broker. I just wanted to be a team. But every broker I hung my license with was an evil broker. So I had to open my own brokerage at the time when I was independent. But then I ran into a lack of value proposition. I had no systems, I had no technology at the time. You know, we're talking about 2010. Technology wasn't as accessible or affordable as it is today. So I remember sitting in my office and I was in between KW and RE/MAX. I was KW before I went independent, and I didn't have a great experience with the regional. I just couldn't see myself going back. And I said, what's the next best thing? And at the time, RE/MAX in our market was respected, and there was a small gap in the area that I was at that they didn't have anyone running it. And I looked at their systems and tools, and I was like, this might be the next best thing for me. I had a lot of respect for it. They flew me out, and I looked at their systems, their processes, their training, and I said, well, maybe they'll sell me a franchise. And I didn't realize they'll sell anybody a franchise, but somehow I thought I was special. So guess what? I bought a franchise. And I bought a very glorified logo and systems, and yes, some on-demand stuff, but it was great for me at the time, and it solved the problem that I needed, which was systems and some technology at the time, and a brand that I thought agents would respect, that I no longer had to be that broker that would say, I'll take anyone that with the blood running through their veins and give them 100% commission and fight about a $300 transaction fee. And I said, now I can recruit better talent. That was my mindset around buying a franchise.
Yeah, guys, pick up on this. So what broker owners look for is they want an easier way to run their brokerage. They are looking for tools and systems. So remember all these things that we're saying. It'll help you get in front of these brokers. We're going to go next question. Frank, this one's going to be for you. Why did you eventually listen to the person who got you to come over, and how did they approach you?
So it was Jimmy and Andrew Franklin, also from Katy, Texas, who were recruiting me for several years because I had my feet dug in pretty hard. But they approached me. I started my independent brokerage about the same time they joined eXp. And I was celebrating my success on Facebook as they celebrated their success and growth on Facebook. And our numbers mirrored each other. We got to 100 agents about the same time, 200, 300. 400, but as I was approaching 500, they started pulling away from me. That got my attention. And of course, that was because it's exponential. I mean, they were cheating. They had all those agents recruiting for them.
Yeah,
and I was
we're a
doing
bunch of
this by
cheaters
myself. Yes. So they just hung in there. Jimmy had approached me directly. Did I want to hear about eXp? And I said, absolutely not. I said, I love what you're doing. Jimmy and I had been friends for 30 years. And I said, I want to celebrate you and your success. And he celebrated me and my success. We became a mutual, cheering squad for each other. And he didn't ask me directly after that. It was just a few years. We stayed in touch. We celebrated. But it wasn't until I had some other issues that I actually initiated the conversation.
Yeah, so see that, guys? Love on them. Broker owners do take a little bit of a time. Show them that you actually care and you ain't just looking to steal their brokerage. That's how they look at it. Brian, we're going to ask you that same question. Why did you eventually listen to the person who got you to come, and how were you approached?
Well, it didn't take long. It only took me 3 days. So I'm in the middle
Never
of
mind my first thing. You don't have to love on him too long.
The deal was I had already lost 2 agents to eXp, top producers, and I was standing in Hobby Lobby, and I got a text message that said that a third was going to be recruited. Now, to an independent broker, $96 million, that's a huge chunk of my revenue. And so these are people that I loved on for years. And so I was angry, very angry at you guys. My wife knew about it. And I went home and I learned everything I could about eXp. I read the website, I watched every video, and I stumbled upon this guy named Nolly. Right? And I watched every YouTube video. I can't say every YouTube video, but I watched every YouTube video I could, and I learned about teams moving over, learned about RevShare. I made spreadsheets, and Monday morning I called Nolly's organization. Tuesday, at 5 o'clock, I don't remember what day it was right before Thanksgiving. I talked to Nolly for 2 days. I still owe him a meal. He says I saved him from the dinner, but you know, Josie was inside eating, he was not. He was talking to me. And I worked with car dealers for a long time in past life, and I was waiting for the other foot to drop. And he didn't ever try to sell me. He listened to every problem that I had, and I was borderline fixing to quit real estate because I couldn't compete. I was street fighting every day, fighting over deals, fighting over agents, fighting over rent money. And you know what he did? It's the one thing. Pray with me. He prayed with me. And I'm sorry I'm getting a little choked up. But he said that changes the gate and it opens from the inside. And I knew on that phone call, I didn't tell him, but I knew on that phone call I was going to be eXp soon. It took me about 45 days. I lost half my brokerage. But I'm telling you guys right now, there's brokers out there hurting. They're hurting, guys. And it's almost your duty to go out there and teach them that this model can save their brokerage, especially in the upcoming market.
Guys,
You lay it out.
awesome. Guys, remember that. You know, we always think of the bigger brokerages when we think of brokerages. There's thousands of brokerages out there, thousands. And I'm going to tell you right now, I watch the industry really well. The big brokerages are going to be eating up the little brokerages. It's like everything else we see going on in this world with the Amazon and everything else. Technology is making the bigger ones get bigger and it's swallowing up the little. Well, we're going to swallow them up, but we're going to help them build their business. Next question we're going to have is for Trish. Trish, what was the toughest hurdle or mindset you had to overcome in order to make that decision to move?
So I was in real estate as a solo agent for years, then got my broker's license in 2017, and I did it because I'd been at every big box company out there, Keller Williams, Remax, all of them, and I didn't like any of them. I didn't like the models because I believed, because I was a single mom and I was struggling and I was a top producer, and nobody ever offered help. Nobody ever was like, hey, try this. I just had to make it work and figure it out on my own. So I was always going to open my own office because I didn't want to ever have that kind of environment for agents. And so the focus was for me to open my own office, and I wanted it to just be small, like 10 of my friends. We're going to do our own thing, and nobody's going to tell us what to do, and we're going to help each other. But we grew really fast, and we grew to 50 agents in 6 months, and most of them were KW agents, and so that was a huge problem. I had to hire all this staff, and when I had brought on all these people, like 50 of them came on quickly because they hated the KW model, and I was with Jay Kinder and Michael Reese, and I was in their coaching program. And Michael Reese calls me up one day, and I'd been in with my company for about 2 years, and I already saw it was a problem. I was like, holy crap, I had no idea what I was getting into with this independent brokerage. Basically, I'm still the top producer, and I'm funding this, and this is not what the life I want. And so Michael calls me one day, and he's like, look,
we need you to come to Frisco. You need to have a conversation with us because what you got going on over there is not working. I'm thinking you're stressed out. And I was like, I'm so stressed out. I hate this life. Like, I was miserable. So I went to them. And I had been in their coaching program for like a year and a half. So I go to Frisco. I'm sitting at a table with Jay Kinder. He's across the table from me. Michael Reese is next to me, and Woods is across the table from me. And Jay looks at me and he goes, Trisha, look. You got a Blockbuster and eXp is Netflix, and we're gonna shut you down. Like, it's either gonna be today, 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. You're gonna be that lone Blockbuster sitting out there. Is that what you want? Because I'm pretty sure that's not what you want. And I was like, no. And I swear the conversation went on like way deeper for hours, but that was one of the most profound things ever said to me. And then Michael walked me to my car, and Michael was like, here's what I'm gonna tell you. You got 50 agents in your office when you go back home, and none of my agents knew I was talking to Mike and Jay about switching. Nobody knew. And he was like, they're gonna hate you. Most are not gonna come with you. They're gonna spread rumors about you. They're gonna try to destroy your life. But if you'll push through and trust in us, your life will never be the same. And it did. The same thing happened, and it was the hardest thing, but it's never been the same. It's been awesome.
Awesome. You know, sometimes a hard close is really good. You just got to know when to pull it out. Because I never forget, me and Ann sat across from a C21 broker owner, and at the end of the conversation, she's like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And I said, that's okay, because I'm going to come in here and take all your agents. See how quick her mind changed. Anyway, next one. Kathy, you're going to get the same question. What was the toughest hurdle or mindset you had to overcome in order to make that decision?
I think I had to overcome the past, for one thing, having a bad experience with another company. So I was independent. I was on my island. Nobody's going to tell me what to do, like what you said, Trisha. And then really, it's ego. I think that's, you know, and I don't want to tell you that. You got to be careful how you deliver that message because it can be offensive. But when you break it down, broker owners, like, that's their identity. My identity was my company. I was proud of that. And I had ownership of that. Like, that was my thing. And so it was hard for me to think about, I'm rolling into another company. I'm losing my identity. I'm losing my ownership. Now I won't be able to sell. Like, all these things that I've been working up to for the years, you know, it just kind of was weighing on, I don't know if this is right for me. But then really when I took a step back, I still own a company. I run a large team. I have an LLC as a company. It is a company within a company. So I just had to resolve that within myself. So I think practicing those conversations are critical, because you do need to broach that, because they're not going to tell you that, but that's exactly what they're feeling inside, is they're giving something up. The loss of their identity is what they had to deal with. So there was that, and then also just, I'm sorry, what was the last part of the question, Chuck?
Yeah.
Got my
Now you're going to make me look for the question.
Keeping you engaged.
But what was the
The
largest
biggest
hurdle or
hurdle.
mindset you had
Yeah.
to come to make that move?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't that big of a hurdle once I resolved in myself that I wasn't giving something up. But then it was going to be going back into growth patterns again. And I honestly thought it was a better option for my agents, so I wasn't afraid. And although I did lose a couple, honestly, when I broke it down, I had a couple different coaches, and one time the coach said to me when we were talking about recruiting, and I'm like, well, I need to really dial in my value proposition. And he said, you're the value proposition. And I was like, but I don't want to be the value proposition forever, because that's a lot of little birds chirping at me all the time needing something, you know? So I really felt like if I didn't make this move, then I was holding something back from my agents for my selfish self. That's what I came to, because I didn't necessarily want to. We were running a great business, we were fine, but I was also running in different directions. We were opening up mortgage divisions, you know, we have title, we were doing all kinds of things, and I wasn't there as often. So then the liability piece of it started to weigh on me, because now I have managers, other people that were giving my agents direction and instructions and answers, but yet my name's on the dotted line of a lawsuit if that's wrong information. So all of that kind of started to play in, and I just thought, I don't really have a choice but to figure out how to make this work, because if I don't, each one of these agents will eventually leave. And like somebody said earlier, when you lose one of your biggest producers, that knocks a hole in your P&L for a very long
It
time.
really makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, another thing that a lot of broker owners will say is they go, well, I'm concerned for my agents. What's in it for my agents? So Frank, we're gonna start off that question for you. So the question's going to be, what did you see this as a benefit for your agents coming over?
Okay, so I went through a two-stage process in this transition. One was, is it right for me? I had some issues that needed to be resolved. And once I came to a conclusion that, yes, it would solve my short-term and long-term problems, then I had to go into a multiple-month vetting process to determine if it was good for my agents. And I was a little slow on the uptake. I didn't understand the rev share, the 7 levels. It was very, very confusing to me. And so I went through several months of many conversations with my sponsors trying to figure all that out. Is this really going to be good for our agents? I had very successfully competed against eXp for several years, saying, well, I've got everything they've got and I charge you less. And I believed that, and I shared it passionately and sincerely and very effectively. But when I started through this multiple-month vetting process, I came to understand that I didn't understand the whole eXp value proposition. I had picked out just 1 or 2 pieces and compared myself favorably to those. But when I began seeing everything that eXp offered to their agents, things that I as an independent broker could never provide, then ultimately I felt like I had a moral obligation to share this opportunity with my agents. I had always told them, you're first. I started this company for you. It's all about you. And I knew at that point I was going to have to walk back what I had been telling them all those years if I did not let them know what I learned about eXp. And I'm just talking about the things that are just normal, bread and butter for you who are in the system right now, but the health care was huge. So many of our agents had no options for that. Rev share, I wasn't charging enough to share the money with them, and yet those who actively participate in growing in the organization should share in that. I couldn't give them ownership. I couldn't carve up one little brokerage into 472 pieces and give them all a chunk of it. And yet if I really cared about their long-term financial future, I needed to be giving them equity in the company. Relocation, REO, affinity, it just goes on and on and on. Things that I had always said, I give my agents the best tools and technology and training in the industry, and I absolutely believed that, until I discovered that there were gaps in my value proposition that eXp filled. And it took me a while, but when I came to that conclusion, then it was decision made.
Yeah, and me and Ange came to that same thing, and that's the hardest thing for a broker owner to overcome, because we have so much pride and ego in our company that we believe we have the best product. So we become closed-minded sometimes. So understand, when you're talking to broker owners, they may at first, for the first few times, be closed-minded because of that reason. Veronica, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Why did you think this was the best move for your agents?
I had to have an honest conversation with myself. I had, I think, played a part in a lot of agents' careers, but I didn't give them a long enough runway. It was train them up, build them up, and then they became my competition. And I cared so much about them, and seeing them go out there and try this on their own, or think the next step was for them to open up a brokerage. I wanted to save people, don't do it. Let me tell you all the truth of what they don't tell you. Because the brokerage model, believe it or not, is not profitable unless you are running a mega brokerage model or a team bridge, in my opinion. And I can argue that all day long, put me up for debate on it. But for me, it was a lot like what Frank was saying. I care so much about these agents, and I wanted to be able to be in business with them no matter where their journey was going to take them. If it was an agent who was going to start out brand new with us and start as an agent on our team, or just wanted our mentorship and later on wanted to be a team or be bigger than what we were ever, I wanted to be in business with them, even though they were not on my team, but I wanted to be team them. And I didn't have a program for that. I didn't have a solution for that, but I cared deeply about their success, even when the breakup happened. And that call, if you're a broker in this room, the, hey, you got a minute? I want to chat. You knew that it was the, I'm ready to go. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm ready to go out on my own, right? I'm gonna go and hang my license over here because of X, Y, and Z. And you're like, but I want to be in business with you for a long time because I genuinely care about you. And it wasn't about me, it was about them. And I was willing to give them everything, take it all. I want to share everything with you. And I didn't have a program for that, Chuck, and I just knew a lot of them would go out and do this, and then I'd see them either fail. Not all of them, but you just saw the stories, and you just were like, God, I wish there was a way I could help them. And I knew that eXp was the solution. So when I thought about, and I had the conversation with my agents, I went to my agents first. I went to top agents on my team, and I said, I am not making this decision without you, but I truly believe that this is the model that's better for all of us. I need your opinion. And I had one of my top agents that to this day I thank him. He said to me, the minute he looked at this, he says, when are we moving? How soon are we doing this? And I think what I want you guys to know about brokers and this whole identity thing, right? People join people. And if they trust you, they'll go to the moon with you. And I remember the agents who went with me, they said, V, if you tell us we're selling real estate on Mars, we're selling real estate on Mars. Where are we going? And they came, and the ones who were loyal, they've stayed. Now, what do? They're running their own teams. And I still get to be in business with them. And I get to celebrate them. That's why I knew this was the better model for them. I no longer would be jealous if they were sitting with my competition, because you know how that went. It was like, why are you talking to a KW agent? Or why are you talking to a RE/MAX broker or an exit broker? Now it's like, oh, you're talking to, let me see how I can help you. Now I get to be their partner beyond just being on my team.
Okay,
this solves all the problems.
We got to wrap it up. One last question to each, and just take like 30 seconds to a minute. Just give one quick piece of advice to an agent trying to recruit a broker owner. Quickly, go right down this list. One piece of advice you would give them how to approach a broker owner.
Change is a gate. It opens from the inside. Keep loving those people. Love them all the time.
Good.
Broker owners they're prideful. They'll never tell you they're broke. They'll never tell you they're in debt. And they'll never tell you they're not profitable. So you really got to ask the right questions and be sincere.
Great advice.
Leverage your upline. Don't do this alone. This is not an I sport, this is a we sport.
Don't answer for them. I find a lot of times we have limiting beliefs in our mind of like, I'm not going to call them because they would never move. And I can tell you, growing up as an agent and an expanding team, a lot of people never called me and asked me for business. And I felt like the pretty girl that never gets asked to prom. So there's a lot of broker owners out there that would love to talk to you if you open the door to them. So don't answer for them.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you try to understand their pain. Even if everything is good and they're growing and they're profitable and successful by every outward measure, I promise you there are some challenges, some fears that independent broker owners, problems they cannot solve. And if you can just spend time with them and talk with them and gain their trust, they'll share that with you. And in my case, eXp solved all of those problems.
Great. And guys,
Money changes hands when problems are solved, right?
yes. So to close it up, guys, first of all, understand no brokerage is off limits. Now, if it's a franchise or an agreement, you can't approach them. That's a whole different story. But me and Ange closed down a $2 billion a year brokerage, $2 billion. We'd be the last brokerage you'd ever think moved. So to sum it all up, guys, when Dave told me about this position, like I said, I haven't had a job in God knows how long. in top 10 revenue share. But you know why I did it? Here's why I did it. A chance, number one, to work with Dave, Sean, and Amy is invaluable. That's one. Two is, I am on a mission to make this the largest brokerage in the world. And in order for me to help out, God gave me a gift to bless others. So guys, utilize me now in this position. Don't think you can talk to a broker owner. Look, they'll be nice, but if you don't understand their lingo, you won't be able to talk to them. They will look at you thinking you're just trying to get a big fish. Get them on the phone with me. Let me help you bring them over. Guys, we appreciate your time. Look out for great stuff this group will be putting out. God bless you guys.